Subscribe to Atten Recounts right now if you are ready to master the brutal kitchen logistics that kept millions alive during the total collapse of the global food supply in the 1940s. While history books often focus on the front lines, the real battle for survival happened on the windowsills and in the backyard dirt of families who refused to starve. During the Second World War, every scrap of organic matter was viewed as a biological blueprint for the next meal rather than waste. In cities under siege or suffering from extreme rationing, the traditional garbage bin disappeared because every root, peel and seed was repurposed into a perpetual source of nutrition. This was a sophisticated system of nutrient recovery and botanical cloning that ensured a household could produce food even when the shops were empty. We are going to break down the exact scientific methods used by our ancestors to turn common vegetable refuse into an endless harvest. The biological potential of vegetable bases allowed for rapid cloning in limited spaces. The first line of defense against hunger was the immediate salvage of plant bases and root crowns. Families learned that the bottom inch of a head of celery, the white root ends of leeks, and the base of a head of lettuce contain concentrated meristematic tissue. These cells are capable of generating new growth if placed in the right environment. Instead of discarding these ends, survivors would place them in shallow containers of water with the cut surface facing upward. Within 48 hours, new green growth would typically emerge from the centre of the scrap. This method was a literal lifesaver because it provided fresh greens without the need for soil or sunlight initially. To apply this today, you should cut your green onions or leeks approximately 2 inches above the roots. Place them in a small glass with enough water to cover the roots, but not the top of the cutting. And, well, make sure to change the water every single day to prevent the growth of bacteria and rot. Within a week, you will have several inches of new edible growth that can be harvested repeatedly. Potato skins were reclassified from trash to high-value seed stock. During the war, the potato was honestly the most critical source of carbohydrates, but the government made sure that not even the peelings were wasted. Families came up with this clever technique called skin planting, where they'd peel the potato very deeply, making sure that each strip of skin included at least 1 or 2 eyes, or, those dormant buds. These thick skins were then left out to dry for a day, which allowed the cut surface to callus over. That way, it helped prevent rot once they were placed in the earth. This simple method allowed the family to eat the starchy interior of the potato, while using the discarded exterior to, start the next generation of the crop. Now, for a practical application in a survival scenario, you don't actually need commercial seed potatoes. If you've got a potato that's begun to sprout, you just cut it into chunks about the size of a golf ball, making sure, each piece has at least 2 healthy sprouts. Let these pieces sit in a dry area for about 24 hours, until the wet side feels, a bit like leather. Then you plant them 6 inches deep in a bucket or garden bed. This simple method turns one single old potato into a harvest of, say, 5 to 10 pounds of fresh tubers. Discarded greens and, carrot tops provided the micronutrients necessary to prevent disease. Malnutrition during the war was not just about calories, but about the lack of vitamins, which, led to conditions like scurvy. Survivors learned that the parts of the vegetable we usually throw away often contain higher concentrations of minerals than the parts we eat. Funny how that works, isn't it? Carrot tops, for instance, are exceptionally high in potassium and vitamin K. Wartime cooks would finely mince these bitter greens to use as a seasoning, or, boil them down into a nutrient-dense broth that stretched those meagre soup rations. Even the tough outer leaves of cauliflower and the woody stems of broccoli were grated into a fine pulp and, added to bread dough to increase the volume and nutritional profile of the loaf. You can implement this today by saving all your clean vegetable trimmings in a freezer bag. This includes onion skins, celery leaves, and the ends of squash, just to name a few. Once the bag is full, you just simmer everything in a pot of water for about 4 hours, and that, creates a concentrated vegetable stock. This liquid, you see, captures all the minerals that would otherwise be lost, and honestly, it provides a powerful immune boost to your diet. Meticulous seed saving from daily meals, ensured long-term food security. When commercial seed packets became a luxury or, disappeared entirely, every meal became a source of genetic material. Families would carefully extract the seeds from tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers before preparing the flesh for the table. They understood that these seeds were the key to feeding themselves the following year. They developed a process of fermentation to clean tomato seeds, which involves letting the seeds sit in their own juice for several days until a layer of mold forms. This breaks down the germination inhibitors that exist in the fruit. After rinsing and drying these seeds on a piece of paper, they were stored in a cool, dark place. To do this yourself, select the largest and healthiest fruit from your stock. Scoop the seeds into a jar and add a small amount of water. Once the mixture has fermented for 3 days, rinse the seeds in a fine mesh sieve and spread them out to dry completely. This ensures you have a high-quality seed bank that costs nothing and provides a reliable food source for the next season. Foraged garden weeds were used to supplement the caloric intake of the household. When the cultivated scraps just weren't enough to fill the stomach, survivors, they turned to the wild plants that managed to thrive in the ruins of the city. Plants like dandelions, stinging nettles, and purslane, they were no longer seen as pesky weeds, but as vital components of the daily menu. Dandelion roots, for example, were roasted and ground up to create a sort of substitute for coffee, while the leaves themselves provided a high-iron salad green. Purslane was particularly valued, because it's one of the very few plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for brain health and for maintaining body temperature during the cold. To utilize this knowledge today, You should learn to identify these common plants in your local area. Purslane can be recognized by its fleshy, succulent leaves and reddish stems. It can be eaten raw or sautéed, just like spinach, and it grows abundantly in almost any soil without any maintenance. It is a free, high-quality survival food that most people walk over every day. The perpetual stock pot was the final stage of nutrient recovery. Every single scrap that could not be replanted or used for seed was thrown into this pot to simmer. This included the pods from peas, the skins of onions, and the bones from any meat that was available. By keeping the pot at a constant low simmer, families ensured that every possible calorie and mineral was extracted and held in a warm, digestible liquid. This prevented any waste and provided a constant source of hydration and warmth. In a modern context, using a slow cooker to process your daily vegetable trimmings into a base for other meals is honestly the most efficient way to reduce your grocery bill while maximizing your nutrient intake. The families of World War II survived because they refused to accept the concept of waste. They understood the deep science of biology and applied it to their daily lives with a discipline that, really, we can still learn from today. If you find this historical breakdown of survival nutrition valuable, subscribe to Atten Recounts now. Share this resource with your fellow history buffs and survivalists to ensure these essential skills are preserved for future generations.